Today, aeronautics has become so advanced that we can fly at speeds double that of sound. We've even reached Mars, but there are several places on Earth where aeroplanes do not fly. Two such places are the Himalayas and the Pacific Ocean. Hi viewers, and welcome back to another Curiosity video. If you've ever seen the flight patterns of flights from Japan to the United States, you'll notice they never go directly across the Pacific Ocean to get to, say, San Francisco. They take a curved pattern that brings them, if not over Canada, then near it. There are many reasons for this. In today's video, we'll tell you what they are. From low oxygen levels, less demand, safety issues, emergency landing problems to bad weather and more. Watch till the end to learn about all of them. Let's begin by talking about why airplanes don't fly over the Himalayas. The Himalayan region comprises of mountains that are higher than 20,000 feet. This includes Mount Everest, standing at 29,035 feet above sea level. Although most commercial airplanes fly at 30,000 feet or more, they usually fly in the troposphere. However, the top of the Himalayas touches the stratosphere. Before an aircraft can fly at a safe distance above the Himalayas, the plane has to go further into the lower part of the stratosphere. However, the air is very thin in the stratosphere, and the oxygen levels are quite low. This can lead to air turbulence, causing uneasiness in passengers. Furthermore, the wind's force will be very strong, and the presence of mountains will make it hard to maneuver the aircraft in the air. If there are no mountain ranges, the pressure of the wind at such a height can easily be dealt with. The stratosphere is situated above the Earth's weather, where the air level is exceptionally low. The level of oxygen is also thin. When the air is less dense, then at a certain altitude, there comes a moment when enough air can't pass through the engine, and there's not enough power generated for the plane to ascend. Himalayan flying means a reduced level of oxygen, which can lead to hypoxia. So it leads to an inadequate situational awareness of passengers and crew members. There's also the risk of oxygen running out in these areas, as airlines usually only have 20 minutes of oxygen. So in a situation where the supply runs out, the flight must descend to at least 10,000 feet to replenish oxygen, which is known as drift-down procedure. But in the Himalayas, descending to 10,000 feet is suicide. As the Everest region is a low-populated area, radar systems are not as developed. Radar is meant to ensure aviation safety and improve aircraft operational efficiency. With very little radar in the area, pilots can't communicate with the ground to figure out the flight conditions. When you cruise at a high altitude, the weather conditions get colder. The jet fuel used in aircrafts can freeze at -47 degrees Celsius, which is possible above Everest, as the altitude is high. The aircraft must descend to a lower altitude, where it's warmer, but there's no room for choosing that option while flying over Mount Everest. From a pure demand point of view, the Himalayas lie in a part of the world that generally doesn't see a lot of flyover traffic. Flights between city pairs in Asia and Europe usually fly to the north or south of the Himalayas simply because it's shorter. Mount Everest lies on the border between Nepal and Tibet. The extremely high mountain ranges are a problem in this area. The airports on the mountainside sit on a slope usually ravaged by heavy crosswinds. Pilots need special certification to land at an airport like this. The air pressure at such a height is very low. This decreases the air resistance and available drag. This decreases the plane's ability to slow down while landing. Flying over mountains is demanding, so many factors like terrain, wind, weather, and loss of situational awareness are threats to the safe flying of commercial jets over Mount Everest. Amateur pilots need to consider their background and experience before flying over Mount Everest's terrain. Even the most experienced pilots can someday be trapped in a situation that requires immediate attention. Most aircraft usually follow a geodesic path, or the shortest path to travel from one point to another while maintaining a constant velocity in a short amount of time. Most airlines usually plan their plane routes based on their geodesic curve. However, the Himalayan region has just two small airports that are about 1,000 kilometers apart. This is why it's not that easy for airport hopping in this region, and most airlines avoid flying over it. Moving on, let's talk about why pilots don't fly over the Pacific Ocean. The primary reason airplanes don't fly over the Pacific Ocean is because curved routes are shorter than straight ones. Flight maps are somewhat confusing because the Earth itself isn't flat. As a result, straight routes don't offer the shortest distance between two locations. Whether a commercial airline is flying from the United States to Asia or elsewhere, it will have the fastest and most fuel-efficient flight by performing a curved route. In any given year, airplanes are in the air for approximately 25 million hours. For routes connecting the United States to Asia, however, commercial airlines don't fly in a straight line directly over the Pacific Ocean. It's the pilot's responsibility to make an emergency landing if the aircraft encounters technical difficulty or the engines are jammed. However, emergency landings need to be done on a flat surface. If a plane encounters a problem over a seemingly endless pond of water, the pilots are going to have a rough time finding a safe spot to set her down. When planning a route, many pilots prefer to maximize the number of airports along their way. Storms and thunderstorms often occur in the Pacific Ocean. In order to avoid them, current aircraft always set their cruise altitude above 10,000 meters to avoid unpredictable weather in the Earth's troposphere. However, airplanes need to avoid areas with bad weather as much as possible. The reason for this is to give the aircraft height and space to deal with failures. Sometimes, when the aircraft encounters failure, the flight altitude has to be lowered to balance the air pressure inside and outside the cabin. If at this time, the bottom is exactly the center of the thunderstorm, the plane is going to be cold. The route from Australia to the United States must cross the Pacific Ocean. But in order to make sure there's an emergency landing, the route from Australia to the United States has to pass over the island of Fiji. This is done to comply with ETOPs regulations, which is the Extended Range Twin-Engine Operational Performance Standards. This is a regulation which was set up for the unreliability of early aircraft engines. It has been in use ever since. Due to the mechanical failure of the twin-engine aircraft in the past, an engine failure often occurred. At this time, the aircraft needed to find a suitable place nearby for emergency landing. So, early ETOPs clearly stipulated that the distance from any point to the nearest alternate airport on any civil aviation route should not exceed 60 minutes. But now, the performance of the aircrafts has improved a lot, and the ETOPs limits has been increased to 120 minutes. This regulation is mainly used to restrict transoceanic and Arctic routes, because when flying inland, there are enough nearby airports, and it's impossible to find a suitable alternate landing place. In oceans, deserts, and polar regions, the risk of emergency landing is extremely high, so most airlines choose to take a detour. While traveling in an airplane over the Himalayas and Pacific might seem scary, airplanes are still one of the best ways to travel. There are many hacks which can help make your flying experience even better. Find out by watching 21 Secret Facts About Airplanes, Airlines and Flying, or 7 Tips to Help You Survive a Plane Crash. What's the worst flying experience you've ever had? Let us know in the comments below.